Hi, babies. We're in a different scene of my apartment today because I wanted to be chill. I wanted to be relaxed as I come to you after a very long time of being in a reading slump. I am back with my latest book review. I read Let Us Descend by Jasmyn Ward, which was a critically acclaimed book. I remember when it came out, so many people were talking about it, and I was late to the bandwagon. But I'm really glad I got around to it, and I ended up really liking this book. I did not love it, and I didn't love it for a couple of reasons. Before I continue, I gave it a 4 stars on Goodreads, and I believe a 3.5 or 3.8 on Fable. And the reason why I docked points are two key things. I think the book was very slow paced. It was anticlimactic. I felt like there were certain things about the story that needed more. I think a lot of it needed more. And like for instance, in the earlier chapter, she's on her the main character Annis is on her home plantation, and her mother is teaching her the ways of her mother, so essentially Annis's grandmother, who was a Dahomey warrior before she got sold into slavery for getting pregnant. Um, and so she's teaching her daughter these, fighting skills and warrior moves, fighting with spears and all this stuff. And there's like this story about the bees and the trees, and she can hear them buzzing. And I almost feel like that didn't amount to anything. That really gripped me in the beginning. I was like so curious, like, what are these bees? And they do continue to some extent later on in the book, but not in a way that's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I felt like if the author tied that in a little bit more into the story, especially as it relates to like her relationship with the spirits and the magical sense of all of that. Like I felt like there was more that could have been done there. And like I said, like I feel like the ending was just okay. This is a tough book that deals with difficult topics around slavery and things that women who grew up in slavery, who were subjected to the harshness of slavery, we know what those things entailed. And in this case, Annis is a product of those terrible acts. So her mother is a slave woman, and her father is her slave owner. And there's obviously just like a heaviness around that, and the learning about her mother being handed over to a king to become a warrior, and then choosing to love someone in the shadows in secret and getting pregnant, and that leading to her entire trajectory being disrupted and being sold into slavery. And they're very tough themes to grasp in this book, and that definitely can be a hindrance in continuing or getting into the book, just because those topics are so heavy and can trigger certain emotions. But overall, what is special about this book is Jasmyn Ward's writing. Excuse me. This woman is obviously brilliant and just super smart, and has a level of authority over her writing style that is, honestly, I think I got through this book just because it is so beautifully written. Like, this is one of the most beautifully written books that I have ever read. And the story isn't all bad. Like I said, I gave it a 3.8 and a 4 stars. Docked it because of certain things that I felt like was lacking in the story. But I do consider it a pretty good book, or I would consider it an okay book. But the writing makes it a brilliant, amazing 10 out of 10 reading experience, because it is just that good. And she's a singular voice. She is a singular writer. Really, I would go so far as to say she's a genius. I think this will do well as a film or TV series because it does have that kind of like mellow, slow pace, and I could literally see the spirits coming to life and communing with her, conversing with her. Like I could see that on the big screen in my mind, and I think that could be like just beautifully depicted on screen. I do think this would be a really, really good book to turn into like a film or a TV series. There's, the magical aspect of it. Like I said, she is guided by and in constant conversation with spirits throughout the book, and discovering different forms of spirits, and it's just those themes I think will do really well in film or TV format. And I also think like this book could definitely use a part two or something if it doesn't exist. I haven't checked. This book could use a part two because I do think there is so much left unsaid based on how it ends. I think there is. I don't want to give away too much because I'm so bad at like avoiding spoilers. I'm trying my best here. I would love to know what happens after, how and if she sustains, if she survives, and what does that look like in the time that she is living in. Now that she understands the power and her connection to these different spirits, like how does that help her throughout this next phase, this next chapter of her life, I would love to see that. I will double check if there is a part two to this. But overall, I will say, again, a writer's pen will save an okay book and make it an amazing experience. And in this case, I think the story is beautifully written. There are some really great, captivating elements here, but the story in totality was just lacking a little for me. Otherwise, I honestly, just because of this writing and just because of reading her writing and the experience it's given me, I would love to read more of her work. And again, I don't think this is a terrible book. It's just not a perfect book. I started reading it in April, right before I went on vacation, and that kind of just like threw my reading off. I've just been very social, living, partying, and having fun, enjoying my summer, if you will. But I finally concluded it about a week ago, so it took me a long time. But honestly, even though it did take me a little bit of time because of just life happening, I think based on the slowness of the book and again crossing those barriers with the harsh topics that it entails, I think it would have taken me a little bit of time anyway. But I think this book is a great read for folks who enjoy a little bit of like magical, realistic magic, what it calls it, like magic in a sense that it feels so real. So I guess it's like realism in a way. I think this is a great book for women who know what it's like to overcome certain obstacles and feel like even though you can rely on these other sources for strength and power, that at the end of the day, it is you yourself that's going to do it. And just very, very strong relationships with women throughout this book. They play very pivotal roles in like shaping Annis and how she decides to go about living through the difficult circumstances that she's experienced. Very strong female characters here, even just like even though most of them are like side characters, even the bad ones, their presence is felt, and they all inform her in some way and like lead her to where she ends in the conclusion of this book. So yeah, I will give this book overall a 4 out of 5 stars. And I would love to continue reading Jasmyn Ward, and I look forward to what I read from her next. And in general, like I look forward to what my next read is. So yeah, that's it. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Bye.